pretending to be his own twin. Brilliant.
Gods help us all.
Man, Drip Otto is back. I've never been so happy to see him. We are talking about House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 2. We're only on Episode 2, and I feel like so much has already happened, and yet also not much has happened. But these characters are just... We're getting into so many things. The show is so deep. This was just an episode about mourning and how different people mourn, really. And yet it felt like it was a whole movie. It felt like I just watched a whole season of a show in one episode. TV is back, baby. Man, why can't all TV be like this? I know why, because if all TV was like this, then we would have, this wouldn't be as heightened. However, can some TV be a little bit more like this? Because that would be useful. All right, we're going to talk about spoilers, so I'm just going to put that out there first. Spoiler warning, spoiler warning. Dragon swooshing in, saying spoilers and such, because it's about to get spoilery. I mean, honestly, I feel like even if we just talked about anything that happened last episode, it'd be spoilery if you haven't watched that. So make sure you watch this, because it's really good. Man, there's so many things I want to talk about. I'm going to save the best for last. I'm going to tell you that. How about that? We're going to be talking about a lot of the interpersonal relationships that are happening in this episode. And we're going to talk about a lot of people's state of minds. Because like I said, this really is an episode that is about mourning and how different people are dealing with that. And also about how a lot of people are messing up their own strategies for their house. Aegon, I'm looking at you. But we're going to start off talking about Helena and Alicent, because they're kind of thrown into this really awful spot at the beginning. They have to go behind this cart with Jaehaerys's body on it. And I felt nervous. Helena's like, I don't want to do that. I'm scared of these people. And I felt scared because that cart was wobbling all the way down. And I was like, that head is not going to stay on that body. That head is going to come off and it's going to be trauma all over again. And who knows what'll happen. I did not feel secure. And I think that's the whole point. It's also shot beautifully. And everyone is acting their hearts out throughout this entire episode. But dang, the acting is so great in this scene. I just felt really bad for Helena and Alicent. And also, I think it's interesting because we get this contrast with Helena of she's on this cart in this funeral procession. There's all these people around her who genuinely seem to care for what she's been through and are crying and weeping for her and for her loss of her son. And she's terrified of them. But then she tries to actually reach out to someone that is in her family. She tries to reach out to her husband, also her brother, Aegon, and she just gets completely brushed off. I feel so bad for her. It's really tragic. I don't think it's going to get much better for Helena, though, somehow. Oh, I can't think about that too much. That's sad. That's depressing. Weirdly, as well, I feel like the person that's dealing with this the best, especially on the green side, is Aemond somehow. Aemond is somehow the most mentally stable, and we get a really interesting scene with him that's also shot in a very distinct way. I feel like it's to make him seem very vulnerable. I mean, he is very vulnerable, I think, in the scene, and to make him seem small. In contrast to this big figure that we've built up, this kind of monstrous figure, in a weird way, I feel like Aemond is very sweet and gentle. He doesn't want to be this person. I feel like everyone's emotions on the green side, honestly, they're just betraying their own emotions and desires and wants. It's like everyone just pushes everything down and is like, we have to do this thing because we're representatives of the crown, and so we're not allowed to have feelings. And I'm like, y'all gonna explode. This is not healthy. This is not good. And I mean, on the other side of things, I would say that the black side has their emotions that kind of more drive them. They kind of wear them a little bit more on their sleeve, which gets them into other trouble. Because then they're a little bit more, well, a lot more, I would say, impulsive. And that gets them into some bad situations. Both of them are not dealing with their emotions maybe in the healthiest way, I guess is what I'm saying. Different ways. I still think Black is doing a bit better because I feel like hiding your emotion is definitely not good. And at least they're putting it out there. But yeah, it's also getting them into trouble. Let's be real. Let's be honest. But you know who's not in trouble on that side of things? At least not yet. They probably will be soon though. Rhaenys and Corlys. So they are still one of the healthiest relationships that we have, maybe in all of the Game of Thrones universe that we've established so far, at least cinematically. And of course, unsurprisingly, one of the healthiest relationships, and they still, of course. And the cuddle sesh after, I mean, that's how you know you got it. That's how you know you got it. And I loved this idea, too, of them in bed talking about, like, do they think Daemon and Rhaenyra are going to be okay? Like, are they going to figure it out, like, what's going on with them? And just how Corlys is like, look, he is the king consort, which means he can kind of do what he wants, but also, you know, you kind of got to fall in line. That's kind of what it is. And Rhaenys is like, well, you know, like, that might not be Daemon's way. Not everybody can do that. And Corlys is like, I don't know. I think it's pretty great sometimes, actually. I was like, dang, hot. These two are hot. They got it. But obviously they're very much in danger because I love them. And that makes me concerned for their safety. They're too cool. They're too cool and they're too badass. And they're great together, which means we're definitely... Someone's not making it this season. Let's be real. I mean, I want to say it's probably Corlys, but at the same time... Rhaenys would be the surprise, wouldn't it? I mean, I don't know the histories as well. I haven't read this book. I look up the histories sometimes just to check in and see what's coming up. Because the cool thing about this show is that although you think you know what's going to happen, even when you think you know, you get to be surprised. Like, case in point, what happens with Arryk here? We know about this legendary fight that happens between Erryk and Arryk, and we get the setup for it. And once again, I must say, I hate Criston Cole. I hate Criston Cole so much. I just want something really bad to happen to him, guys. Obviously, as Team Black, I just can't with him. I just can't. But he's also just the worst. He decides that a good move is to, while Arryk is just eating after a night of being up, after dealing with the procession and eating for the first time in who knows how long, Cole's like, this is my time to target him and accuse him of failing this household by not guarding the son when he was guarding the king, FYI. And meanwhile, yeah, what Arryk said, I'd like to echo. Yeah, where were you, Criston Cole? Yeah, we can't talk about that, can we? So, he calls him out. He tells him he's got to change his cloak, and then he has the audacity to basically blame him for what happened, which clearly guilty conscience here. I think Cole is just trying to cover his own butt and make himself feel a little bit better by putting the blame somewhere else. And also, clearly he just doesn't like Arryk. That was already established last episode. So his plan is that he is going to send Arryk out to go on a solo mission to single-handedly infiltrate Dragonstone and kill Rhaenyra. I'm sorry. What? I would like to just replay Otto's reaction to that, because that was my reaction when that plot was devised. However, I will say it is kind of a smart plot in the sense that, yeah, Arryk is a twin, so he could pose as Erryk. They're identical twins. But, I mean, that's where the genius of that plan ends. There's so many things there that just... I mean, one person on that mission, and also the fact that Arryk is of the Kingsguard, he's a white cloak. It's like, that's so dishonorable what you're asking him to do. And Arryk says, you know, like, that's not what we're here to do. Like, it seems underhanded. It's not honorable. So it's a thing of, even if Arryk had succeeded in this quest, I don't think it would have gone well for him because it ruins his honor, which we all know that that's very important. Cole even knows this. He makes a whole point of the cloaks being white, which is hilarious coming from Cole, who has, you know, the dirtiest cloak inside of them all. He's the most, he's sinned the most. But he comes up with this, you know, brilliant plan, and so Arryk is out to do that. Overall, I would say this entire episode is stunning, by the way. From the visuals, to the sound, to the acting, every element of it is just great. And honestly, everyone in this episode is acting they're acting. And you know how I know they're acting? Because it's also so subtle, a lot of what they're doing. It's not, nothing feels very big. It just feels very grounded. And yet in this fantastical world, it's so believable. Gosh, it's so good. From Alicent and Helena's conversation to Rhaenyra and Daemon going at each other, and just years of tension between them kind of coming to the forefront as it do. And also, it's like a lot of layers with them. It's like ego, it's competing for the crown, it's almost like a competition. And at the same time, I think there is a lot of love there, but there's also a lot of suspicion between them. And how can you love someone if you don't trust them, right? That's a problem. That's a problem. And of course, we also have Otto and Aegon going at it, which is a nuts conversation. We have, like I said, Cole and Arryk. We have Arryk and Erryk's epic fight in this episode, which obviously has been talked about. It's a legendary fight in the books, but still, even knowing how it was going to go down, it surprised me how it went down. Because we know what the outcome of the fight is. We think we know what's going to happen here. But they still found a way, I think, to surprise us. Because I wasn't expecting someone to take their own life. For Erryk to basically succeed and yet not be able to live with what he'd done. He was just so honorable. So we lost honestly a couple of really good guys in this fight. And I mean, it just goes to show you this whole war is a mess. I mean, war in general is a mess. If there's anything we can take away in terms of the real world here. I mean, I think, we're going to see too with the dragons fighting dragons. I think that's going to have some real world parallels, to be honest with you, whether it's intentional or no. But I think one of the worst losses that we've had here so far, not even maybe this season, maybe in the entire show, is Viserys' model. Because goodness, that man worked so hard on that model, and it only took a few seconds of Aegon being upset to destroy it all. Also, apparently people online are saying that Daemon is the cup throwing master because he is throwing that cup pretty epically. But I gotta say, I don't know. I think Aegon's trying to give him a run for his money, both in destroying the model and the amount of cups that man threw in this episode. Also, can we just say how symbolic it is? Aegon destroying Viserys' model, destroying his work, literally also destroying his work in terms of all that he did to maintain peace in this kingdom, to help his house, to help his family. And what does Aegon do? Otto is trying to at least use the tragedy that has happened to build something good so that the Greens can, get some people over to their side. I don't know. Trying to help his family out, really. Even though Otto is slimy in his own ways, I gotta say, I was on his side for that one. And Aegon decides to throw it away by, instead of properly investigating to try to figure out who else was behind the death of his son, he decides, I'll just get rid of all the rat catchers. Just hang them all up. No problem. Innocent men. Innocent people. Everything that we did, I've never felt so sympathetic to Otto in that moment. So empathetic even in that moment. Man, Otto was like a living embodiment of the Ben Affleck meme where he's got the cigarette. It was a living embodiment of it, wasn't it? When he was like, oh my gosh, why would you do this? And also then in just realizing when Aegon says, Cole has a plan, and then he hears about that, and he's like, I'm sorry. You sent him solo? Alone? What the heck? And then is forced to relinquish his position as hand. And he's just like, what is happening? These clowns. And the audacity and just the complete blunder of Aegon to then say, yeah, I think Cole should be hand. I feel like that's one of the worst picks you could have ever made, but I'm not surprised. And so now we're going to have a couple of goofs running the kingdom, it seems. At least Alicent's still in there. Gosh, I feel bad for Alicent. Gosh, she's going to have her hands full here. Oh boy. At least Cole is going to be probably pretty moldable based on how this ended with them still being together, which is such a problem. This whole episode is such a problem for Green. Oh my goodness. But just the highlight, I think, for me was Otto dealing with all this BS. And then after all of it, when he goes to Alicent and says, you know, I'm just going to go back home. When she convinces him to go to Highgarden, he's like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. I'll go to Highgarden. Sounds good. And then she's like, okay, but like before you go, like I've sinned and like, can we talk about it? Because I need to talk to someone. Dad, I like need to talk to you. So I need to talk to someone. And he's just like, I'd rather not hear it. I was like, oh my gosh. And then the chain of it, it's like he doesn't want to hear about her emotions. She goes to her son to try to talk some sense into him. He's an emotional wreck. And she's like, I don't want to deal with his emotions. And then, of course, she ends up back with Cole. It's just a cycle, y'all. It's a cycle, and we're stuck in it. And it's gonna be rough. Especially because next episode, it sounds like, you know, we're going to be dealing with the idea of going to war and what that's like when you unleash dragons. Dragon on dragon. I'm sure nothing bad will happen with that. I'm sure no one will suffer in a dragon on dragon fight. No one loses when that happens, right? It's going to be awful, isn't it? It's going to be terrible. Like Aemond's lady was saying to him, you know, when you all fight each other, we the small folk are the ones that kind of got to deal with it. We're the ones that really hurting. Well, get ready for a world of hurt because we got dragons. So, yikes. Yikes. That's basically my thoughts on this episode, though. I mean, there's a lot that's going on here, so there's a lot I probably didn't touch on that I'm sure some of you really want to talk about. So let me know what it is in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts were on this episode. Did you love it as much as I did? Honestly, House of the Dragon, I just feel like every episode is going to be better and better than the last, and I'm so excited to be here for season 2. I am so excited. We're back, baby. Thank you so much for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, friends, stay nerdy.